Commander Zethkar pressed his scaled hands against the war room table, watching the holographic display flicker with red warning signals. The battle had been raging for 6 standard cycles, and the Galactic Defense Coalition was losing badly. Ships exploded in silent bursts of light across the star map, each one representing hundreds of lives lost to the Vorthak invasion fleet. "Sir, we've lost another 3 cruisers in the Kepler sector," reported Lieutenant Even, her blue skin pale with exhaustion. "The Vorthak are pushing through our defensive lines faster than we can replace them." Zethkar's jaw tightened. The Vorthak had appeared from the outer rim 6 months ago, their black ships cutting through space like hungry predators. No one knew where they came from, but everyone knew what they wanted: complete domination of the galaxy. Their technology was superior, their tactics brutal, and their numbers seemed endless. "What about reinforcements from the core worlds?" Zethkar asked, though he already knew the answer. "The Altarian fleet is 3 days out, sir. The Centaurian forces are engaged defending their homeworld. The Vegan Republic—" Yvonne paused, checking her datapad. "The Vegan Republic has declared neutrality." The room fell silent, except for the steady hum of the ship's engines and the distant explosions visible through the viewport. Zethkar looked around at his officers, beings from a dozen different worlds, all united in their fear of the approaching enemy. The coalition had seemed so strong when it formed, but now it felt fragile, like glass about to shatter. "Sir," Communications Officer Torvin spoke up, his voice uncertain, "we're receiving a transmission from an unknown vessel. They claim to represent something called the Terran Defense Force." Zethkar frowned. "Terran? I've never heard of that species. Are they part of the coalition?" "No, sir. They're not in our databases at all. The vessel appears to be approaching from the Sol system. That's listed as a restricted zone in our star charts." "Restricted how?" "The files say it's a quarantine zone, sir. Some kind of dangerous predator species lives there. The Galactic Council voted to avoid contact over 50 years ago." Zethkar's mind raced. 50 years ago, the galaxy had been at peace. Why would they quarantine an entire star system? And why were these Terrans breaking quarantine now, during the worst crisis in galactic history? "Put them through," he decided. "We need all the help we can get." The holographic display shifted, showing the image of a strange biped with pale skin, dark hair, and unusual forward-facing eyes. The creature wore what appeared to be a military uniform, decorated with symbols Zethkar didn't recognize. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force," the being said, its voice surprisingly clear through the universal translator. "We understand you're facing an invasion force. We'd like to offer our assistance." "Admiral Chen," Zethkar replied carefully. "I am Commander Zethkar of the Galactic Defense Coalition. While we appreciate any offer of help, I must ask, how did you learn about our situation? Your people were under quarantine." The human's expression didn't change, but something flickered in those strange eyes. "We've been monitoring galactic communications for some time, Commander. We know about the Vorthak threat. We also know you're losing." The bluntness of the statement sent a chill through the war room. It was true, but hearing it stated so matter-of-factly by an outsider made it feel even more real. "With respect, Admiral," Zethkar said, "this enemy has defeated the combined fleets of 17 worlds. What could one ship from a quarantine system possibly contribute?" Admiral Chen smiled, and for some reason, that expression made Zethkar's scales prickle with unease. "Commander, we're not offering one ship. We're offering the entire Terran Defense Force, 47 vessels. Fully armed and crewed by beings who have been preparing for exactly this kind of war for the past 50 years. "Preparing how?" Lieutenant Even asked from behind Zethkar. "If you've been under quarantine, what could you know about galactic warfare?" "Because, Lieutenant," Admiral Chen replied, "humans don't just study war, we perfect it. It's what we do best." Before anyone could respond, the tactical display lit up with new contacts. Ships were dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. Not the organic, flowing designs of coalition vessels or the sharp, angular craft of the Vorthak, but something entirely different. The human ships looked functional, almost crude compared to the elegant vessels of other species, but there was something menacing about their simplicity. 47 vessels confirmed, Tactical Officer Quinn reported, his voice filled with disbelief. They're holding formation perfectly. I've never seen coordination like this." Admiral Chen's image remained steady on the display. "Commander Zethkar, we're prepared to engage the enemy immediately. However, we need to discuss our terms of engagement." "Terms?" Zethkar asked, confused. "This is a defensive action. We're trying to save innocent lives." "Exactly," the human replied, "which is why we need you to pull back your remaining forces. Let us handle the Vorthak fleet." The war room erupted in protests. Lieutenant Even stepped forward, her voice sharp with indignation. "Admiral, our people have been fighting and dying for 6 cycles. We're not going to abandon the battle now." "You're not abandoning anything," Admiral Chen said calmly. "You're making a tactical withdrawal to preserve your forces. Trust me, this will be over quickly." "How quickly?" Zethkar demanded. The human paused, appearing to consider the question seriously. "Based on our analysis of Vorthak capabilities and our own combat projections, I estimate 5 hours, maybe less." Silence filled the war room. 5 hours? The coalition had been fighting for 6 days and barely holding the line. The idea that these newcomers could end the battle in 5 hours seemed impossible. "Admiral," Zethkar said slowly, "I appreciate your confidence, but the Vorthak fleet consists of over 300 vessels. They have weapons that can crack planets and shields that have resisted our best efforts." "Are you certain about this estimate?" Admiral Chen's smile returned, and this time Zethkar was certain it wasn't entirely pleasant. "Commander, 50 years ago, the Galactic Council decided that humans were too dangerous to be allowed into galactic society. They were afraid of what we might do if we ever learned about the larger universe." She leaned forward slightly, her forward-facing eyes focusing directly on Zethkar with predatory intensity. "They were right to be afraid. But today, their fear becomes your salvation. Pull back your forces, Commander. Let us show you what humans do to those who threaten innocent lives." The transmission ended, leaving the war room in stunned silence. Outside the viewport, the human fleet was already moving, their ships accelerating toward the massive Vorthak armada with what seemed like reckless speed. "Sir," Communications Officer Torvin reported, "the human admiral is requesting all coalition forces fall back to minimum safe distance. They're transmitting detailed withdrawal vectors for every ship in our fleet." Zethkar stared at the tactical display. The human ships were small compared to the massive Vorthak dreadnoughts, but they moved with purpose and precision that was almost hypnotic to watch. Each vessel maintained perfect formation while adjusting course for optimal approach vectors. "How are they coordinating like that?" Lieutenant Even whispered. "Our fleets take hours to plan maneuvers that simple." "Maybe," Zethkar said quietly. "We're about to find out why the Galactic Council was so afraid of them." The first human ship reached weapons range of the Vorthak fleet, and space lit up with energy beams and projectile weapons. But something was wrong. The Vorthak ships were responding differently than they had during 6 days of coalition attacks. Their usually precise formations were wavering, their targeting solutions scattered. "Sir," Tactical Officer Quinn called out, his voice filled with amazement, "the humans are using some kind of electronic warfare. They're jamming Vorthak communications and targeting systems simultaneously while maintaining perfect coordination of their own forces." More human ships entered the battle, and the Vorthak formation began to collapse entirely. The enemy vessels, which had seemed so invincible against coalition forces, suddenly appeared clumsy and confused. Their weapons fired wildly, often missing targets that should have been easy hits. "The humans are using multiple attack vectors," Quinn continued, his excitement growing. "Kinetic projectiles, directed energy weapons, some kind of gravity distortion field, and they're all being coordinated in real time. It's like watching a symphony of destruction." Zethkar watched in fascination as the first Vorthak ship exploded under concentrated human fire. Then another. Then 3 more in rapid succession. The alien invaders, who had seemed unstoppable for 6 days, were being systematically dismantled by these mysterious humans. "How long has it been since they engaged?" he asked. Lieutenant Even checked her chronometer. 17 minutes, sir. 17 minutes. And already the Vorthak fleet was in complete disarray. Ships that had terrorized the galaxy were fleeing the battlefield, only to be hunted down by swift human vessels that seemed to anticipate their every move. "Sir," Communications Officer Torvin reported, "we're receiving a general transmission from the human fleet. Admiral Chen is broadcasting to all remaining Vorthak ships." "Put it through," Zethkar ordered. Admiral Chen's voice filled the war room, but now it carried a cold authority that made every officer present shiver. "Vorthak Fleet, this is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force. You have exactly 60 seconds to surrender or withdraw from this system. This is your only warning." The response came quickly, a burst of Vorthak battle language that the Universal Translator rendered as various threats and curses. The alien fleet regrouped for what appeared to be a final assault on the human ships. "Their mistake," Admiral Chen's voice said simply. "What happened next would be talked about in military academies for generations." The human fleet suddenly separated into dozens of small attack groups, each moving with inhuman precision to attack specific weak points in the Vorthak formation. It wasn't just tactics, it was art. If art could be applied to the complete destruction of an enemy force, Vorthak ships that had withstood days of coalition bombardment were torn apart in minutes. Their shield technology, their armor, their superior firepower, none of it mattered against humans who fought like they had been born for war. 2 hours and 14 minutes, Lieutenant Even reported, her voice barely above a whisper. Half the Vorthak fleet was gone. The other half was in full retreat, abandoning their invasion to flee toward the galactic rim. The human ships pursued them with mechanical persistence, ensuring that none of the alien vessels remained in the system. As the last Vorthak ship disappeared into hyperspace, the human fleet regrouped with the same perfect coordination they had shown throughout the battle. Not a single human vessel had been destroyed. Only 3 showed any damage at all. Admiral Chen's image reappeared on the communication display, and now Zethkar could see why the Galactic Council had been afraid. There was something in those forward-facing eyes that spoke of a species that had turned warfare into science, that had spent 50 years preparing for exactly this moment. "The immediate threat has been neutralized," she reported calmly. "However, Commander Zethkar, we need to discuss the larger situation. The Vorthak invasion fleet was just the advance force. The real threat is still coming." Zethkar felt his heart sink. How could you possibly know that?" "Because, Commander, this is exactly the kind of war humans have been fighting among ourselves for thousands of years. We recognize the pattern. What you faced was a probe, designed to test galactic defenses and identify weaknesses. The main Vorthak force is probably 10 times larger and will arrive within days." The war room fell silent again, but this time the silence carried a different weight. Hope mixed with fear as the coalition officers tried to process what they had just witnessed. "Admiral," Zethkar said finally, "if what you say is true, then we need to prepare the entire galaxy for invasion. But first, I need to know, what exactly are humans? What made the Council so afraid of your people that they quarantined an entire star system?" Admiral Chen's expression softened slightly, but her eyes remained sharp and focused. That, Commander, is a long story, and we have about 72 hours to prepare for the real war. But I promise you this. When the main Vorthak fleet arrives, they're going to learn why humans don't just fight wars. We end them. The transmission ended, and Zethkar stared out at the human fleet, wondering what he had just unleashed upon the galaxy. The Vorthak had been defeated in less than 5 hours, exactly as Admiral Chen had predicted. But somehow, that victory felt like only the beginning of something much larger and more terrifying. In the distance, the human ships maintained their perfect formation, waiting for orders with the patience of predators who knew that the real hunt was still to come. 72 hours later, Commander Zethkar stood in the expanded war room aboard the human flagship Determination. The Coalition had never seen anything like it. The entire ship hummed with efficient activity as hundreds of humans worked at stations that seemed to monitor everything happening within a dozen star systems simultaneously. Admiral Chen stood before a massive holographic display showing the galactic spiral arm, red markers indicating known Vorthak positions. She had spent the past 3 days briefing Coalition leadership on human military doctrine, and every revelation had been more unsettling than the last. "The main invasion force will emerge here," she said, pointing to a cluster of systems near the galactic core. "Based on their probe's data gathering, they'll expect to face the same level of resistance they encountered before. They have no idea that humans are now involved." General Voss, the Coalition's supreme military commander, shifted uncomfortably in his chair. The tall, crystalline being had been skeptical of human assistance until he saw the battle recordings. Now he looked at Admiral Chen with something approaching awe. "Admiral, your analysis suggests the Vorthak main fleet will consist of over 3,000 vessels, even with your demonstrated capabilities. How can 47 ships possibly stand against such numbers?" Admiral Chen smiled the same predatory smile that had unsettled Zethkar 3 days ago. "General, you're thinking about this the wrong way. We're not going to fight 3,000 ships. We're going to fight one fleet that happens to have 3,000 ships. There's a significant difference." She gestured to the display, and the view changed to show detailed schematics of Vorthak vessels and fleet formations. Humans have been studying the probe's attack patterns, their communication protocols, their command structure. We've identified 17 critical vulnerabilities in their tactical doctrine. Lieutenant Yven, who had been assigned as liaison between Coalition and human forces, leaned forward. "What kind of vulnerabilities?" "The most important one is psychological," Admiral Chen replied. "The Vorthak are a hive mind species, but not in the way most people understand. They don't share thoughts directly. Instead, they share emotions and intentions. This makes them incredibly effective against opponents who fight with predictable patterns." She paused, and several human officers in the room exchanged glances that made Zethkar's scales prickle with unease. "However," the Admiral continued, "humans are uniquely unpredictable. We're individual thinkers who can coordinate collectively while maintaining independent decision-making capability. To a hive mind, we appear chaotic, random, impossible to counter effectively." Captain Rodriguez, Admiral Chen's tactical officer, stepped forward. "Additionally, Vorthak psychology makes them vulnerable to what humans call shock and awe tactics. When their emotional network experiences sudden, overwhelming trauma, it cascades through their entire command structure." "You're talking about psychological warfare," General Voss said slowly. "You want to terrorize them." "Not terrorize," Admiral Chen corrected. "We want to break their ability to function as a coordinated force. Once their hive mind network destabilizes, they become 3,000 individual ships with no effective command structure." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Zethkar found himself remembering the Galactic Council's decision to quarantine humanity. Had they foreseen exactly this kind of tactical thinking? "Admiral," he said carefully, "may I ask how humans develop such specific knowledge of hive mind psychology? You've been under quarantine for 50 years. Admiral Chen's expression became unreadable. "Commander, during those 50 years, humans didn't just prepare for war with unknown alien species. We prepared for war with every possible type of alien intelligence we could imagine. Hive minds, energy beings, silicon-based life, machine intelligences, and dozens of others. We call it the Xenowar Protocols." "You prepared to fight species you'd never met?" Lieutenant Ivan asked, her voice filled with disbelief. "We prepared to fight every possible enemy," Captain Rodriguez replied. "Human military doctrine assumes that any species capable of interstellar travel is potentially hostile. We've spent 5 decades developing counters to every form of alien intelligence our scientists could theorize." General Voss's crystalline form flickered with what Zethkar recognized as deep unease. "That level of preparation suggests a species that expects war as the default state of existence. Because for humans, war is the default state," Admiral Chen said matter-of-factly. "Peace is something we have to work to maintain. War is something we're naturally excellent at." Before anyone could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. The holographic display shifted to show massive energy signatures emerging from hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system. "Vorthak main fleet emerging on schedule," reported a human sensor officer. "Confirmed count, 3,247 vessels, including 73 Dreadnought-class ships." The Coalition officers stared at the display in horror. The Vorthak fleet was enormous, stretching across space like a dark cloud of death. Each ship pulsed with organic bioluminescence, creating patterns that hurt to look at directly. "My gods," General Voss whispered. "They're beautiful." "They're about to be debris," Admiral Chen replied calmly. "All Coalition forces maintain position at minimum safe distance. Human fleet, implement Xenowar Protocol 7 Alpha." The transformation that came over the human crew was immediately visible. Every officer and technician suddenly moved with mechanical precision, their casual demeanor replaced by something cold and calculating. Zethkar realized he was watching an entire species shift into war mode. "Protocol 7 Alpha confirmed," Captain Rodriguez reported. "All ships report ready for deep strike operations. Estimated time to complete fleet elimination, 4 hours, 37 minutes. 4 hours, General Voss stammered, against 3,000 ships. "The probe fleet lasted 2 hours and 14 minutes, Admiral Chen reminded him. "The main fleet is larger but uses the same tactical doctrine. We've had 3 days to prepare specific counters." On the display, the human fleet was moving toward the massive Vorthak armada. 47 ships against over 3,000, and yet somehow the humans seemed confident of victory. "Admiral," Zethkar said, "before this begins, I need to ask one more question. What exactly did the Galactic Council discover about humans 50 years ago? Why were they so afraid that they quarantined your entire species?" Admiral Chen turned to face him directly, and for a moment he saw something in her eyes that made his blood run cold. "Commander, 50 years ago, a galactic survey ship encountered Earth during what humans call World War II. They observed our species for several months, studying our behavior patterns." She paused, and the war room fell silent except for the tactical displays tracking the approaching fleets. "The survey ship's report concluded that humans were the most dangerous species the galaxy had ever encountered. Not because we were technologically superior, we weren't. Not because we were physically powerful, many species are stronger, but because humans treat war as an art form. We innovate constantly, adapt instantly, and fight with a creativity that no other species has ever displayed. The first weapons exchanges began on the tactical display as the human and Vorthak fleets came within range. Immediately, patterns emerged that made no sense to Coalition observers. The survey ship recorded humans using over 400 distinct combat tactics during a single planetary conflict, Admiral Chen continued, her voice remaining calm even as space around them erupted in weapons fire. 400 different ways to kill each other, developed by the same species on the same world within the span of 6 years. Zethkar watched in fascination as human ships began executing maneuvers that seemed to defy conventional tactical wisdom. They split into dozens of small groups, each attacking from different angles and using different weapon combinations, making it impossible for the Vorthak hive mind to develop effective countermeasures. The Galactic Council realized that if humans ever gained access to interstellar technology and encountered hostile aliens, we wouldn't just defeat them, Admiral Chen said. We would innovate new ways to defeat them faster than they could possibly adapt. We would turn war itself into a weapon. The truth hit Zethkar like a physical blow. The quarantine hadn't been to protect the galaxy from human aggression. It had been to protect any potential alien enemies from human ingenuity. So they contained us, Admiral Chen concluded, hoping that by the time we developed interstellar travel on our own, the galaxy would be peaceful enough that our particular talents wouldn't be needed. On the display, the first Vorthak ships began exploding under concentrated human fire. But these weren't the random destructions of the probe fleet engagement. These were carefully orchestrated eliminations designed to maximize psychological impact on the hive mind. They were wrong about the peaceful galaxy part, Captain Rodriguez observed as another cluster of Vorthak vessels disappeared in brilliant flashes. But they were absolutely right about our talents being dangerous. The battle unfolded with mechanical precision as human ships executed tactics that seemed to have been designed specifically to counter Vorthak psychology. Every attack was calculated not just for physical damage, but for maximum disruption to the enemy's emotional network. 1 hour, 15 minutes elapsed, a tactical officer reported. Enemy fleet cohesion dropping to 67%, hive mind network showing signs of cascade failure. Lieutenant Even stared at the displays in amazement. How are they doing this? It's like they can predict every Vorthak movement before it happens. Because we can, Admiral Chen replied. Humans spent 50 years developing psychological profiles of every theoretical alien intelligence type. We know how hive minds react to specific stimuli, how they process fear and confusion, how their command structures fail under pressure. The Vorthak fleet was beginning to break apart, individual ships fleeing in random directions as their collective coordination collapsed. Human vessels pursued them with relentless efficiency, ensuring that none of the alien ships escaped to threaten other worlds. 2 hours. 41 minutes, the tactical officer reported. Enemy fleet strength reduced to 38%. Remaining vessels attempting to withdraw from the system. Do not allow any ships to escape, Admiral Chen ordered calmly. Complete elimination of all hostile forces. General Voss's crystalline form was flickering rapidly with distress. Admiral, is complete annihilation necessary? Some of those ships might surrender. General, the Vorthak don't surrender, Captain Rodriguez explained. It's not part of their psychology. They'll retreat, regroup, and return with modified tactics. The only way to permanently stop a hive mind invasion is to eliminate their ability to coordinate future attacks. The final phase of the battle was swift and brutal. Human ships hunted down fleeing Vorthak vessels with methodical precision, using tactics that seemed designed to prevent any escape. Within 4 hours and 37 minutes, exactly as predicted, the last enemy ship was destroyed. Space fell silent except for the gentle hum of human ships regrouping into perfect formation. Threat eliminated, Admiral Chen reported. All enemy vessels destroyed. No survivors detected. Human fleet casualties. 0 vessels lost. Minimal damage to 3 ships. The war room remained silent for long minutes as coalition officers tried to process what they had witnessed. An invasion fleet that could have conquered the galaxy had been completely eliminated by a force less than 2% its size. "Admiral," Zethkar said finally, "what happens now? The Vorthak threat is ended, but you've demonstrated capabilities that frankly terrify me. What are human intentions toward the rest of the galaxy?" Admiral Chen turned to face him with an expression that was surprisingly gentle. "Commander, humans didn't break quarantine to conquer the galaxy. We broke quarantine to save it. Our intentions are simple. We want to go home, continue developing our civilization, and be left alone to do so." "But what if another threat emerges?" General Voss asked. "What if some other hostile force appears?" Admiral Chen's predatory smile returned. "Then the galaxy knows where to find us. Humanity will always be ready to defend innocent lives against those who would destroy them. It's what we do best." As the human fleet prepared to return to their mysterious home system, Zethkar realized that the galaxy had fundamentally changed. The age of easy conquest was over. Any future aggressor would have to consider the possibility that somewhere in the Sol system, humans were already developing new ways to defeat them. The quarantine had ended, and the galaxy's most dangerous protectors had revealed themselves. For peaceful species, it was the dawn of a new age of security. For potential aggressors, it was a warning that would echo across the stars for generations to come. Humans had entered the battle, and in exactly 5 hours, they had not just won, they had redefined what victory meant. 3 months after the Battle of Kepler, Commander Zethkar found himself aboard a coalition diplomatic vessel heading toward the Sol system. The galaxy had changed dramatically since humans revealed themselves, and not everyone was pleased with the new reality. "I still think this is a mistake," General Voss said from across the conference table, his crystalline form flickering with anxiety. "Humans have proven they're incredibly dangerous. Why are we inviting them to join galactic civilization?" Zethkar looked out at the small fleet accompanying them. Representatives from 47 different worlds, all coming to offer humanity membership in the Galactic Coalition. The irony wasn't lost on him. 50 years ago, the galaxy had quarantined humans to keep them away. Now they were begging humans to join them. "Because, General," replied Ambassador Talara of the Vegan Republic, "the Vorthak invasion proved that our old ways of thinking about galactic defense were completely inadequate. We need humanity's expertise if we're going to survive future threats." "What future threats?" demanded Councillor Krev of the Altarian Confederation. "The Vorthak are gone, completely eliminated. Isn't that enough?" Lieutenant Even, now promoted to captain and serving as the Coalition's liaison to human forces, activated a holographic display showing recent deep space sensor readings. "Actually, Counselor, it's not. 3 weeks ago, our long-range monitors detected energy signatures similar to Vorthak technology in the Andromeda Galaxy. Something big is moving toward the galactic rim." The conference table fell silent. After witnessing human military capabilities, the idea of facing an even larger threat was terrifying. "How long do we have?" General Voss asked quietly. "Unknown," Captain Even replied. "Could be years, could be decades. But Admiral Chen was right about the Vorthak being just an advance probe. The real question is, probe for what?" As their ships approached the Sol system, Zethkar studied the scanner readings with growing amazement. The system was heavily fortified, but not in any way he'd expected. Instead of massive defensive platforms or weapons satellites, there were thousands of small installations scattered throughout the system, each one apparently capable of independent operation. "It's like a spider web," Captain Even observed. "Every platform is connected to every other platform, but they can all function alone if needed." "Human defensive doctrine," Admiral Chen's voice came through the communication system as her ship approached from the inner system. "Redundancy, adaptability, and overwhelming response capability. Welcome to Sol, by the way. You're the first non-human visitors in 50 years. As they traveled deeper into the system, the visitors got their first look at human civilization in its natural environment. What they saw defied all their expectations. Earth wasn't the primitive world they'd imagined. Cities stretched across continents, connected by transport networks that seemed to move people and goods with incredible efficiency. Orbital stations surrounded the planet like a complex mechanical ecosystem, each one serving specialized functions. "How many people live here?" Ambassador Talara asked in amazement. "Earth currently has a population of approximately 12 billion humans," Admiral Chen replied. "The orbital habitats add another 3 billion, and our colonies on Mars, Europa, and Titan account for another billion." General Voss's crystalline form flickered rapidly. 16 billion humans? That's larger than most galactic civilizations combined. "We've had 50 years to develop without external interference," Admiral Chen explained. "Turns out humans are quite good at building things when we're not fighting each other." Their destination was Luna City, built inside the tunnels and caverns of Earth's moon. As they descended through the docking bays, Zethkar marveled at the sophisticated engineering. Everything was designed for maximum efficiency while maintaining what humans called quality of life. The diplomatic complex where they were housed was unlike anything in galactic civilization. Instead of the grand, imposing structures favored by most species, human architecture seemed designed to be both functional and somehow comfortable. The rooms had windows showing the star-filled void, but the lighting and furnishing made the spaces feel warm and welcoming. "Humans value what they call home," Admiral Chen explained as she led the delegation through the complex. "We fight so hard partly because we want places like this to exist safely." The formal negotiations began the next day in a chamber that perfectly demonstrated human psychological sophistication. The room was circular, with no head table or position of obvious authority. Every delegate sat at the same level, facing a holographic display that could show information from any perspective. "Ladies, gentlemen, and respected beings," Admiral Chen began, "we appreciate your invitation to join galactic civilization. However, before we discuss membership terms, we need to address several important issues." She gestured, and the display showed a star map of the galaxy with hundreds of red markers scattered throughout. Over the past 3 months, human deep space sensors have detected 47 different potential threats to galactic security. Energy signatures, unusual stellar activity, communication patterns from unknown sources. The Vorthak were just the beginning. The delegation stirred uneasily. Ambassador Talara leaned forward. "Are you saying there are 47 more invasion fleets coming?" "We're saying the galaxy is not as safe as everyone assumed," replied Dr. Sarah Kim, Director of Human Xenopsychology Research. "Our analysis suggests that the Vorthak were scouts for something much larger, a coalition of species from another galaxy that views this one as ripe for conquest." Captain Rodriguez, now serving as Admiral Chen's diplomatic liaison, activated additional displays showing detailed threat assessments. "Based on communication intercepts and energy signature analysis, we estimate the next wave of invasions will begin within 2 years. And it won't be one species this time. It'll be a coordinated assault by multiple alien civilizations working together." The room erupted in concerned voices as delegates tried to process this information. Counselor Krev's voice cut through the noise. "How can you possibly know all this? You've been isolated for 50 years. Dr. Kim stood up. And suddenly, the temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. "Counselor, during our isolation, humanity didn't just prepare for war. We became very, very good at gathering intelligence. We've been monitoring communications across this entire galactic arm for decades." "You've been spying on us?" General Voss demanded. "We've been protecting ourselves," Admiral Chen replied calmly, "and by extension, protecting you. Would you prefer that we hadn't noticed the approaching threats?" Ambassador Talara raised a hand for silence. Assuming your intelligence is accurate, what do you propose we do about it? Admiral Chen smiled, but this time the expression carried hope rather than predatory intent. We propose a new kind of galactic civilization, not just a trade confederation or defensive alliance, but a true partnership between species based on mutual strength and shared purpose. The holographic display changed to show detailed plans for integrated defense networks, joint research facilities, and what humans called cultural exchange programs. Humans bring military expertise and defensive technology, Admiral Chen continued. Other species bring their own unique capabilities: Altarian crystal technology, vegan biological sciences, Centaurian energy manipulation, and dozens of others. Together, we become stronger than any external threat. Captain Evans studied the proposals with growing excitement. You're talking about creating a true galactic civilization, not just a coalition of independent worlds. Exactly, Dr. Kim replied. Humans understand that diversity makes a species stronger. A galaxy where every civilization contributes its best capabilities would be essentially unconquerable. General Voss's anxiety was visible in his rapid flickering. But what about human military dominance? Your capabilities in warfare exceed anything we've ever seen. How do we know you won't eventually decide to conquer rather than protect? Admiral Chen was quiet for a long moment before responding. General, I want you to understand something fundamental about human nature. We are indeed excellent at war, but war is not what we love. What we love is what war protects. She gestured toward the windows showing Earth hanging in space, its blue-white surface covered with lights that marked billions of lives living in peace. Humans fight so effectively because we know exactly what we're fighting for. Every human warrior carries in their mind the image of home, of family, of the life they want to preserve. We don't fight to conquer, we fight to protect. And now we want to help you protect the same things for your own people. Dr. Kim activated another display, this one showing detailed cultural analyses of different galactic species. Our research indicates that every species in the galaxy shares certain fundamental values. The desire to raise their young safely, to create beautiful things, to explore and learn, to live without fear. These are human values too. Counselor Krev shifted in his seat. But your military advantages give you enormous power over the rest of us. How can we be equals in such a partnership? Captain Rodriguez smiled. Counselor, with respect, you're thinking about this backwards. Yes, humans excel at warfare, but we're terrible at many things other species do naturally. The display showed comparative analyses that surprised the delegation. Altarian crystal technology allows for computational capabilities that human science can't match. Vegan biological research has solved problems that have stumped human scientists for decades. Centaurian energy manipulation could revolutionize human industry. What Captain Rodriguez is saying, Admiral Chen added, is that humans need the rest of you as much as you need us. Military power is useless without the civilization it protects, and civilization thrives when each member contributes their unique strengths. Ambassador Talara studied the proposals carefully. These cultural exchange programs, you're suggesting actual integration between species, not just diplomatic relations. Exactly, Dr. Kim replied enthusiastically. Human children learning Altarian mathematics alongside their human curriculum. Vegan scientists working with human engineers to develop new technologies. Centaurian artists collaborating with human musicians to create forms of beauty that neither species could achieve alone. The room fell silent as delegates considered the implications. What Admiral Chen was proposing went far beyond anything the galaxy had ever attempted. There's something else you need to understand, Admiral Chen said quietly. The approaching threats aren't just military. Our intelligence suggests that the external civilizations aren't just planning invasion, they're planning genocide. Complete elimination of existing galactic life to make room for their own expansion. The holographic display showed intercepted communications that made every delegate in the room recoil in horror. The external civilizations viewed the existing galactic species as nothing more than animals to be cleared away. This isn't a conflict we can solve with traditional diplomacy or limited military action, Admiral Chen continued. It's a fight for the right of our civilizations to exist at all, and it's a fight we can only win together. General Voss finally spoke, his voice subdued. If what you're showing us is accurate, then we have no choice but to accept your proposal. But I have to ask, why are humans willing to take such risks to protect species you've never even interacted with before? Admiral Chen's expression softened, and for the first time since the negotiations began, she looked less like a military commander and more like a person who cared deeply about something precious. General, humans have a concept we call the family of intelligence. We believe that any species capable of thought, creativity, and love has inherent value that must be protected. When humans first learned that the galaxy contained hundreds of intelligent species, we didn't see potential enemies. We saw brothers and sisters we'd never had the chance to meet. She paused, looking around the room at beings from dozens of different worlds. The Galactic Council was afraid that humans were too dangerous to be allowed into galactic civilization. They were partially right. We are dangerous to anyone who threatens innocent life. But we're also the species most committed to ensuring that every form of intelligence has the chance to flourish. Dr. Kim stepped forward. Our xenopsychology research has identified something remarkable about this galaxy. Despite evolving on completely different worlds under vastly different conditions, every intelligent species here shares core values about the importance of life, growth, creativity, and cooperation. This suggests something profound about the nature of intelligence itself. Captain Rodriguez activated a final display showing projected outcomes based on various scenarios. If we face the coming threats separately, our models predict a 93% probability of complete galactic conquest within 10 years. If we unite under human military protection but maintain existing social structures, that drops to 67%. But, Admiral Chen continued, if we create true integration, shared technology, combined military forces, unified cultural development, the probability of successful defense rises to 98%. And more importantly, we create a civilization strong enough to survive any future threats. Captain Even looked at the projections with growing understanding. You're not just proposing an alliance, you're proposing the evolution of galactic civilization itself. Evolution guided by human military expertise and everyone else's unique contributions, Admiral Chen confirmed. A civilization that combines the best of every species into something greater than any of us could achieve alone. Ambassador Talara was quiet for several minutes before speaking. Admiral, your proposal is the most ambitious thing the galaxy has ever considered. The logistics alone would be staggering. How do you envision implementing such massive changes? Dr. Kim smiled. We start small. Exchange programs between select worlds, joint research projects, integrated defense training. We build trust gradually while developing the infrastructure for larger cooperation. And we start immediately, Admiral Chen added. Our intelligence suggests we have 18 months before the first wave of external attacks begins. That's enough time to establish the foundation of integrated defense, but only if we begin now. The room fell silent again as delegates considered the magnitude of what they were being asked to accept. Finally, General Voss spoke. Admiral, I need to ask one final question. If we agree to this partnership, if we integrate our civilizations as you suggest, what guarantees do we have that humans will remain protectors rather than becoming rulers? Admiral Chen stood up and walked to the window overlooking Earth. For a long moment, She simply stared at her homeworld before turning back to face the delegation. "General, I can't give you guarantees about what humans might become in some distant future. What I can tell you is what we are right now. We are a species that spent 50 years preparing to defend people we'd never met against threats we couldn't predict. We are beings who broke quarantine not for conquest, but for protection. We are individuals who fight most effectively when we're defending something we love." She returned to her seat, meeting each delegate's gaze in turn. "But more than that, the integration we're proposing would make it impossible for any one species to dominate others. When human children learn Altarian philosophy alongside human history, when vegan medical students train at human universities, when Centaurian artists perform at Earth concerts, we stop being separate species sharing a galaxy. We become one civilization with many expressions." Dr. Kim nodded. "Diversity becomes strength. Cultural exchange becomes mutual protection. And the values we all share, life, creativity, growth, love, become the foundation of something unprecedented in galactic history." Captain Rodriguez activated one final display showing a vision of the integrated civilization they were proposing. Cities where multiple species lived and worked together, space stations designed by collaborative teams from dozens of worlds. Defense fleets crewed by beings from across the galaxy, all united in protecting their shared home. "This is what we're fighting for," Admiral Chen said softly. "Not just survival against external threats, but the creation of a galactic civilization worthy of protection, a place where every species can contribute their gifts while learning from everyone else's wisdom." The delegation spent several more hours discussing details, logistics, and concerns. But by the end of the day, the decision was unanimous. The galaxy would accept humanity's proposal, not just for military protection, but for the chance to become something greater than they had ever imagined possible. As the coalition ships prepared to leave Sol System carrying news of the historic agreement, Admiral Chen stood once again at the window overlooking Earth. Captain Even joined her, looking out at the world that had produced such unexpected protectors. "Admiral," she said quietly, "when this is all over, when the external threats are defeated and our new civilization is established, what will humans do then?" Admiral Chen smiled, and this time there was nothing predatory about it, only hope and anticipation. "The same thing we've always done, Captain. We'll explore, we'll learn, we'll create, we'll love, and we'll protect those who need protection. But for the first time in human history, we'll do it as part of a family that spans the stars." In the distance, preparation ships from dozens of worlds were already beginning the journey back to their homeworlds, carrying with them plans for the most ambitious project in galactic history. The age of isolated civilizations was ending. The age of integrated galactic civilization was about to begin, and at its heart would be the species that had spent 50 years learning to fight for others, ready to teach the galaxy that true strength came not from conquest, but from the willingness to defend everything worth preserving in the universe. The humans had entered the battle against the Vorthok and triumphed in 5 hours. Now they were entering an even greater battle, the fight to build a civilization that would endure for thousands of years. And once again, they intended to win.